I'm a little excited, nervous, being a little vulnerable right now. I haven't spoken in front of like people that are three-dimensional in like 2 years. It's way easier on Zoom because you're making eye contact with everyone at the same time while reading off your notes. It's not the advantage I have today. So my name is Neel. I'm going to talk about how personal transformation drives leadership transformation. First, I want to give you just a little bit of background about me. My company's purpose, Susco, is to enable people to contribute in more meaningful and fulfilling ways. We do this in 3 ways. One is we work with our clients, end users, to unleash the human potential with enterprise software. Within Louisiana, all sorts of businesses, nationally in insurance. With our employees, we serve our purpose because we're heavily into personal and professional development. I'm sure that's no surprise given the topic of the talk. There's about 30 of us. We're remote. Keep looking here, expecting the screen. This is from all hands we recently had. And thirdly, with the community, my parents are immigrants from India. Worked very hard to get here, and they're big fans of the American dream, and so am I. So most of our charitable contributions go towards organizations that help people achieve the American dream, especially those some disadvantaged. Like, for example, we support Son of a Saint, Junior Achievement, Dress for Success, etc. And in my personal life, I like to think I'm a good son, trying to help my parents in this phase of life. I'm very bad at posing properly for pictures, apparently, judging by that crooked smile. And with my kids, I'm really trying to make them anti-fragile. To give you some context on that word, what that means is a fragile system is one where when you apply adversity, it breaks. A robust system or person is when you apply adversity, it bends and then it breaks. An anti-fragile system or person is one when you apply adversity, it actually gets stronger. So it's one of my goals with them. So far, so good. My daughter's 15, so she'd be great for me. All right, so why do I want to talk about this topic? Well, it's really because my personal transformation did indeed lead to a leadership transformation. So the years 2016, Susco had been around for about 10 years. We've been stuck at $1 million in revenue for about 5 of those years. Very low profit, very low employee stat. I was working with a dog, not to grow the company, just to make payroll. Marriage was not in a great place. Barely saw my kids. Couldn't sleep without Ambien. And, it was kind of a hot mess, if you will. And but by 2019, after I went through this process we're going to talk about, we doubled revenue, profit was good, healthy weight, employees very happy, working like my 40 to 50 hour week because I like to, it's growing the company. And we're continuing that trend into 2022 at 6 million. Wife's even happier, at least from my perspective. And and so it's working. We're growing quite a bit, and it's really impacted the way I lead, as you can see from the Glassdoor rating and Inc. But how did we get here? Like, what started this process? So, let me take you to August of 2016. The funny thing about this picture? It's almost like, hey Neel, in 7 years, you'll have solved all this shit. Be really sad right now. Anyway, so it's August of 2016. I'm visiting my parents' house, with my wife-in-law? My parents-in-law's house in India. I'm walking up the stairs so I can have my 10th cigarette of the day. Mind you, it was new. And so I'm walking up the stairs and my knees start. Mind you, I just turned 39. Pretty bad. And I just stopped. Just frozen right there. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm being crippled by the time I'm 60. And then different things are flashing, kind of like the stuff I mentioned earlier about things not going well. And then this guy flashed before my eyes, my father. Now, he had worked really hard, his 20s and 30s, and he wasn't home a lot. By the time he was 40 though, he had his career in check, his marriage was in a great place, he had time for my brother and I. In short, he was a grown-ass man. And I was saying to myself, at 39, I am nowhere near where Dad was at 40. Like, how am I going to get there? And I had no idea how I was going to get there. So, I really didn't know where to start. But what I decided to do was kind of what I did in 2006. In 2006, when I started the company, I said, let me read all the books, get all the coaches that I used here, right? So in 2016, I did the same thing. Number one, I cut my Netflix time from 12 hours a week to 2. I got coached on, with personal coaching, therapy, etc. I read all of the books, spiritual, biographies of winners, psychological, etc. And I leveraged my peer learning group for personal stuff, which helped. So led me to realize, for me at least, is that there were kind of 4 pillars that were involved in my personal transformation that I kind of concurrently applied to work. One is the idea of purpose and vision. Another is the idea of understanding needs. Another is the idea of dealing with one's limiting beliefs. And the other being managing change. So I'm going to dig deep into needs and beliefs. We'll probably run out of time for other ones, but I'll be around that room there afterward if you want to talk about those. So first I want to talk about needs. I really enjoy that there are many models of human needs. I like the Tony Robbins one because he uses plain English words. There's not 50 of them, so we're going to go with that. But basically, a couple things to know about needs. One, with the needs of the personality. So certainty, safety, variety, which is fun, significance, important, love and connection, with the basic 4, you're going to find a way to meet them. The way you find to meet them may be productive, may be destructive, but you're going to find a way to meet these needs. And the second thing about needs that's interesting is that the more time you meet your personality needs in ways that are not positive, negative ways, if you will, the less time you spend on the needs of the spirit. So the needs to grow and constantly evolve, and the needs to contribute, to help others. People sometimes ask the difference between contribution and significance. So contribution is the joy you feel when you give the check to the charity. Significance is when you see your logo on their website, right? So neither is good or bad, but that's the difference. The joy is that. So let's dig into this. How was I meeting my needs in August of 2016? Well, when it comes to certainty, I was binge eating a lot, all of the things. I wish I had remote work then, and I had office pantry with in my enemy. But a lot of binge eating, smoking was probably another way to get a lot of certainty. And also I was on, as I mentioned before, I was on Ambien to sleep, I was on ADD medication, Wellbutrin, other things. So that's how I was getting certainty. The picture on the bottom left actually represents 2 in 1 shot. So it represents variety. I was going out way too much, right? With friends, trying to forget about everything going on. And it also represents significance, because a lot of these people I was hanging out with weren't really people who had a growth mindset. They weren't really trying to strive in life, and I think I felt better about myself because I was in a better place. But it was a bad way to meet significance. And the 4th way was gossip, really. I spent a lot of my time talking shit about people. And that is a way to form connection with somebody, but it's not very healthy. And so I did this needs inventory, and luckily, as I did this inventory, I happened to run into Tools of Titans. This is an awesome book. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of Tim Ferriss. All right, so look, Tim has got some crazy ideas about the world. However, his book, Tools of Titans, is actually 200 chapters, where there's 1 person per chapter that's a winner in their domain, that he asks all the same questions. And so we're talking, as I said, billionaires, athletes, you name it, all sectors, right? And there are some very distinct patterns that emerged when I read this book. 1, 80% of them woke up early. 2, probably the similar 80% of them worked out in the morning. 3, a lot of them had a gratitude ritual. It was very formal, very consistent, to kind of offset the negativity bias that we all have, that the news takes advantage of. And then 4, I would say 70% of them had a meditation ritual. Now, I've tried mindfulness meditation for 10 years now. I don't know if any of you guys have already tried it. So mindfulness is where you focus on the breath. Every time I focus on the breath, though, all I could think about was payroll. So it didn't really work for me. But luckily, Tim Ferriss also tried mindfulness. It didn't work. He actually recommended this other form called transcendental meditation, which works differently. You use a meaningless word in your head called a mantra to not think about stuff. And for whatever reason, that worked for me. 2 weeks after I did that, I actually got off Ambien, and I think a month after, everything else, all other medication I was on went off. And then it's interesting, Viktor Frankl talks about this idea that the best definition of free will is the separation between stimuli and response. That sounds really good on paper, but after I adopted this habit, I was actually able to implement it. So anyway, that aside, how did I start meeting my needs constructively? So for certainty, really getting into this meditation practice, so that instantly killed the binge eating and a lot of the excess alcohol consumption. For variety, so those of you who are friends with me know that if we hang out for more than 5 minutes, we're not going to talk about the weather in the Saints. We're going to go deep. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. You may want to not see me for a week, but that conversation will be great. So a lot of deep conversations with friends, those kind of relationships, gives me a sense of variety. For significance, it's important that I become competent at things. So not necessarily saying to myself, can I be better than person X? But just can I be really competent in project management and really competent in sales, etc. And of course, love and connection, I'm very into the gratitude thing. Any opportunity I get to express gratitude, I always do. Quick hack, by the way, Facebook sends the birthday thing, right? So the birthday notice for your friends, so easy. You get that notice, you pick somebody off the list, and you're like, hey, happy birthday, have a great day, I'm gratefully happy in my life, here are 2 things I admire about you. I gotta tell you, that, one, it just makes your day the minute you do it, and 2, some of the responses you get are pretty wild. So this is just there. So, okay, now what does this have to do with work, right, and leadership transformation? Well, the reality is, we can't be the same, we can't be a different person at home and at work. So how many of you guys ever tried to quit cursing around your kids, right, but you didn't try at work? Anyone? How many of you did that work well? Really well? Anyone? For me, I could not do it. You are you. And so what I discovered when I looked at the way I was meeting my needs at work was that I was manifesting very similar problems. So for certainty, I was micromanaging. For variety, I was constantly implementing change projects. Hey, let's improve this system, let's improve this process, all concurrently, as opposed to spacing it out. This, of course, can lead to attrition and burnout, etc. For significance, I've been told that I was a bit authoritarian back in the day, and maybe my way or the highway, and so that's never good if you're trying to build a big team. And then fourthly, kind of similar to the personal one, if I had an issue with a client or an employee or a vendor, I would vent about it for weeks as opposed to actually having the conflict, right? And so, what did I do in this case? I said, okay, for certainty, we're going to have KPIs for every department, for as much goals as possible, and we're going to look at them on a cycle. So all of a sudden, it meets my need for certainty because I know what's happening. We all have recurring check-ins. For variety, let's continue these change projects, but let's make sure to not overdo it. For significance, we celebrate the wins a lot at Susco. We do a lot of peer recognitions and project wins and things like that to celebrate individuals over and over again. And then for connection, what we do quite a bit of is, as I mentioned earlier, we're very into our employees' personal and professional development. One way we really keep tabs on that is we actually have this employee check-in process where every month we're saying, hey, how are you doing? Are you fulfilled by your work? Are you being supported? Are you, getting the opportunities you need? Everything from equipment to how's your manager? And then we actually take that feedback and change our company's processes or change the way we treat that individual. And then we also do development planning for them, talking about where do they want to be in 10 years, not just in work. Where do they want to be with, their family? Where do they want to be with their impact on the community? And we figure out ways we can synchronize, their needs with our needs. So that covers needs, but it doesn't cover needs. So here's the thing. So once I had started really spending 90% of my coping mechanisms were positive, I would say I'll really start to spend more time on growth and contribution. So again, we do a lot of leadership training for employees to meet the need for growth. We promote employees from within all the time. Contribution side, we sponsor aligned charities, and we do a lot of mentoring on teammates on work and non-work related items. So this begs the question though, why do we have negative coping mechanisms to meet our needs? Where do these come from? Well, one of the answers is limiting beliefs. And so a limiting belief is the belief that you have, whether or not you've ever vocalized it internally or externally, that comes from some adverse or series of adverse events in your past. And it's the way you rationalize the world around you. It's like a protective mechanism. And it's limiting because it's probably something that's getting in your way of kind of what you want to get out of life. So there are 2 ways to identify limiting beliefs that are pretty well known. One is, if you can look at your past and you can look at memories that come up that are over 2 years old, that still have a lot of negative resonance, where it doesn't make sense why it does, because it wasn't that bad, then that may be an example. another way to find where a limiting belief is working, let's say you have a behavior that's happening that you want to get rid of, right? Like let's say, for example, like I used to have a habit of interrupting a lot, and when I kind of drilled into it, it's like I discovered I had a limiting belief not being heard. And so once I realized that people do actually hear me, like it took less willpower to still stop interrupting, right? So why are dealing with limiting beliefs important? So I don't know, what do you guys see on this one? What color does it? Do people see this one? Blue. Blue. Does anyone see white and gold? Just me? Right. So the reason it's really powerful to deal with your limiting beliefs is that your beliefs change the way you see the world around you. One good way of looking at it is if an event happens, it kind of butts up against your belief system, and that is what kind of resolves into an emotional response, right? And so if you can deal with limiting beliefs, you get better emotional responses. So I want to put some meat in the bone here. Oh yeah, here it comes. So I am 8 years old. I just moved to North Carolina, and it was my birthday. So we're gonna go to McDonald's because I was an 80s kid. That's how that works. That's how that works. We had playgrounds. It was awesome. So I go to McDonald's. I'm all pumped, and this is what I expect to see. I get there and I see, boom, this. I'm lying, there was one kid, but regardless, it was still very impressive. And so I was just devastated by this. And I remember thinking to myself, nobody likes me. And that is actually the belief that got installed, that nobody likes me, right? And what's interesting about this is when, if you ask me now, hey Neel, in 9th grade, how are the kids to you? I'm like, well, out of 30, maybe 15 were nice, and, 15 were racist assholes. What is you? Wait, no. Did I get that right? If you ask 20-year-old Neel about 9th grade, that's our response again. Now, if you ask 45-year-old Neel, who's mitigated this limiting belief, I actually know the math of the situation. I'm like, no, 29 were nice and one was a jerk. That's really it. And the point is that your limiting beliefs even color your memory about your past. But in addition to coloring your memory about your past, your limiting beliefs also really can change your behavior in the future. So for example, when I had this limiting belief that no one likes me, it's a ton of conflict I would avoid that 80% have, right? There are times where I didn't negotiate as aggressively as I should have with clients, which obviously hurts your employees. And then thirdly, on the flip side, there are times that I should really let bad people go that I was kind of scared to in the effort to be liked, right? So, good limiting beliefs to uninstall. So another one, another one is one about the world. This is an interesting one too. So sometimes your limiting beliefs are not about yourself, they're about the world. Again, I grew up in rural South Carolina, and honestly, at one point, I was really like, man, any white guy with a deep southern accent is a dumbass. This is not a good belief to have, because then I went to college, and there were a lot of friends I would have had that didn't because of this. Now, luckily, my first boss was he talked like foghorn leghorns, right? Everyone remember that, right? Foghorn. And, but he was brilliant, he was kind, and he was a mentor, and luckily, he helped uninstall the limiting belief. So, how do we deal with limiting beliefs? Well, step one is to acknowledge when they're in the driver's seat. So for example, once I realized no one likes me was the issue I was dealing with, if I emailed an employee, I texted a friend, and it took too long to get a response, and it had a spike in negative emotion. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Like, are they really ignoring you? Do they hate you? Or are they actually working because it's, 10 in the morning? And so that's number one, is acknowledging the belief is there. Secondly, you can try to change the narrative of the root incident. Hey, maybe summer's a bad time to have a birthday in North Carolina, But the third thing, and this is really cool, the thing about beliefs is they are neither provable nor disprovable. They're axioms, right? So all you have to do is you think about your limiting belief. In this case, nobody likes me. And then you think to yourself, I converted that to, you know what? I've got deep, meaningful relationships. But then the second thing is you look to your memory to back up that new claim. So I've got this new empowering belief that I have deep, meaningful relationships. And I can be like, well, think about all my friends that I had in college, or all the friends I have now, or frankly, the friends who showed up today. And, that is how you kind of reinforce that empowering belief. And after After a while of reminding yourself, whenever limiting belief kind of rears its head, well, no, actually, this is the real truth, and here's why. Eventually, the new empowering belief gets installed, and you stop getting triggered by the old belief. So, okay, so I want to hit on purpose since I have time. So okay. So I'm talking about purpose and vision. So this is not the first time I've gotten my health in order. So there are 3 times where I made roughly a 100-pound swing toward the healthy in my life. Once in 1998, once in 2003, and once in 2011. Each time I got my house in order, it only lasted about a year before all the habits came back. So why is that? In 1998, I was trying to get chicks in college. In 2003, I wanted to be the handsome groom. In 2011, Susco was killing it. We were first movers in mobile, and I wanted to look the part of the award-winning entrepreneur. Each time, the reason was, let's face it, about me, right? It's totally ego-based. So why is this time different? As you can see, between 2017 and 2022, the only difference is that instead of leaning against trees, I now wear spandex and hang out with my wife. But aside that, I maintained this. Just another side joke is that my wife's an internist, and she kind of jokes that, hey, it's like your bad habits are finally in remission. So there you go. But seriously, why is this time different? Like, why did it last, and why do I continue to improve? Well, it's because I have a purpose that's not about me, and I have a vision that's compelling. So my purpose when it comes to my health is to be what a fulfilled and successful person looks like, to be a model for their children, so they learn from that, right? So it's a fairly evergreen purpose. And then secondly, what's powerful is that in addition to this evergreen purpose, I have a vision. So my vision is, how old is she now? 15? So my vision is 10 to 15 years from now, no sooner nor later, I'm going to be at my daughter's wedding. I'm going to walk her down the aisle. My son's going to be there. He's going to be healthy and happy. I'm going to give a wonderful speech at the reception. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of dad jokes that I'm going to get credits left for. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to dance the night away with my wife. And it's going to be great, right? All happy and healthy. But what I also have is an anti-vision. So in 15 years, my daughter gets married. Some schmuck is walking her down the aisle because I died because I didn't get my house in order. And so because I've got this purpose that's not about me, and a compelling future state, a heaven to run toward, and a hell to run away from, it keeps me motivated. And you can take that same model and you can apply it on the business level, right? So we already talked about the purpose of Susco, but the vision of Susco is to unleash hundreds of thousands of people with our custom software and SaaS products, right? To get to that vision, we have to do goals and all these things on the way there. But what's also fascinating about this model is you can apply it to all areas of your life, and especially within your workforce. So you can work with your employees and talk about, hey, what is your 10-year vision if you're the best version of yourself in terms of your community, your family, whatever. And it's not, you get a lot of interesting side benefits there. I'll give you a very specific example. One of our employees had a community goal of helping people with mental health issues, right? Totally not a work-related goal, but because he shared that with us, we were able to say, oh, that's great. We actually have a client that is a big CBT, occupational therapy practice. We put him on that project, cost us nothing, and he's more fulfilled by his work because he's getting a community goal because we asked, right? And so this kind of, so that covers purpose. Again, who wants to talk about, what is the last topic I had? Managing change. I'll be around and about, but I'm being kicked off stage, even though it says I have 37 seconds. Oh wait, hold on, one quick thing. I do want to mention one thing. So one thing I want to mention real quick is that self-improvement is not about becoming someone else. It's about uncovering your authentic self. And I think what's important about that is that when you do that, that authentic self starts positively impacting and affecting the others around you. And as you can see, I've actually had a positive impact on a lot of my family members. So with that, thank you guys.